Top of the morning to you. I hope you're all fine and dandy and staying ahead of the game. Remember, it is a game, and each one of us must play our part. I hope everybody's well. I apologise that I haven't uploaded any videos when I'm talking and reading stuff and going through some of my findings, but I've had a little break for a while. Not that I've had a break, I have been busy studying things, but I had a little break from Facebook and from YouTube channels, so I apologise to everyone who complained for me uploading only music, but music is a kind of escape for me, and it allows me to bring messages too. But anyway, I thank you and I thank everybody for the comments. There was a lot of people asking where you are, when you're coming back, and so thank you. I'm back on. I'm going to put together some videos, and today we're going to look at this book, Star, Stones and Scholars, and a couple other things that I have on my maps, and I'll put it together for you, and we'll throw some questions in. There's a lot of discussion about the shape of the earth, and has been for many years. Is it flat, is it concave, or whatever? What shape is it? Is it a globe, or have we been lied to? And this reading from this book and looking at some software and Stellarium software, and looking at Google Earth Pro, the maps that I have put together, we'll have a look at some things and ask the question in our own minds. Hopefully you ask the question, yes, what shape is the earth? But hopefully we'll be able to reveal something quite astounding in this book. So the book is Star, Stones and Scholars. It's a decipherment of the megaliths by Anders Collins, and it's interesting. It says here, do you see the face, the cover? There's a face in there, you can see that, the mouth, the nose, the eyes, because that's actually what we're going to look at today. We're going to look at standing stones in England, in the north of England, in Cumbria, and we're going to look at the faces, but I don't really want to focus on the face. What I want to show you is how it was mapped out many centuries ago, how the earth was mapped for us and surveyed for us, and it was carved in stone. And there are other little touches like faces and bodies and horses and other things. These stones that you see scattered throughout Europe aren't just randomly placed. They have special significance, and we'll hopefully look at that today. So this is the edition of 2003, and it's Trafford Publishing. It's by Anders Collins. I've used this book and many others that I read from, the Irish Wisdom Preserved in the Bible books, the Combs Beaumont's books, but this one is this is a very special book because it brings together everything that I've been learning since I was a child. So we're going to turn to the Mayburgh Stone, and the Mayburgh Stone is in Cumbria, and excuse me for a moment till I get a good focus on it. So we're looking at page 163, and it's Cumbria, Cumberland Mayburgh Stone, and it's an ancient map. And I'm not going to say in this video who actually carved these ancient maps onto stones, but we may come through it in this as we read through this book. I'm not going to go too much into detail. What I really want everyone to focus on and to look upon is a map of the world here on this Mayburgh Stone in Cumbria. And the map is also showing here most of the world, but it's also showing Australia and the Americas. So we see there South America, which is Hydrus. Now don't worry about that. Some people come onto my videos and don't have a clue what Hydrus is. But hydrus is an asterism. These names here are all asterisms, and what we're going to do is we're going to look at this map closely, and I'm going to give everyone a good bit of time to read what's actually carved in this map. As I said at the beginning, there's a face, so it's like a headdress with Pharaoh's head, and here we can see Jamaica and the eye there at Dorado and Cuba. Dorado is another asterism up there. The South Polar Star is in this area we understand as Jamaica, and the Gulf of Mexico. Mexico is a very interesting place. It's marked here. Of course, most places retain their old names or similar names to what's in the heavens, as above so below. So we have Musca, which is the fly basically that sits under the Argus Navi, and immediately up here under Mexico we can see Alaska and a boat depicted on this stone with the word Carina. Now, Carina is part of the boat. We'll look at the boat in a moment. And the boat, the front of the boat is called the Purpose, and we can see this is North America, Carina. Florida's underneath. Florida is Volans. Again, we'll look at this Volans in the heavens in Stellarium software in a moment, but just bear in mind the word Volans and that it's underneath the boat. We have Texas, Mosca, Mexico, Gulf of Mexico. Of course, Donald Trump's claimed it back as the Gulf of America now. So maybe it's just to hide its identity of what it really is, because it's Mosca. That takes its ancient name Mosca, and we'll get to that in a minute, and we'll have a look at that. Now, as it says here, oh sorry, the focus has gone a little bit. The face with Pharaoh's cap has eyes at Dorado. Dorado. So El Dorado. So we have that there. And the face, the nose, the Yucatan, Central America. Hydrus, we'll look at that in the heavens. So we have a large whale which represents the sea or the ocean really. And a whale down representing the ocean by the Antarctic, of course, because that's where these things swim, possibly. Anyway, so what we're looking at here is the ancient civilization who put these standing stones here in England and in Cumbria. Of course, the Cumbrian people are the ancient Picti, the ancient Celtic, the ancient Brittoni people, Brythonic tribes and clans. So this stone is 3117 BC. I apologise for the light there. So this stone was marked 3117 BC. So that's 5,000 years ago, if the calendars are right. If we're at the year 2025, so it's about 5,000 years ago. Someone marked the shape of the earth, but not just the shape of the earth. They marked where the heavenly asterism, constellations, and so forth were. And so you have here, down in the Antarctica, you have Reticulum, Silum, Reticulum, Reticillum. That word culum or calum is very important, especially if you think of Malcolm and that sort of stuff. And the word Salam or Salem represents heaven, or Calum. Also means the word column. So Reticulum, we'll look at that in the heavens. Sorry, I just took us right across the page there. Japan, very interesting. Japan, this is stuff that I've been discovering in my own studies. The name Canopus is also part of the, well, it's actually the underneath of the boat. So you have this boat here, and the Canopus is by the ancient civilizations of Britain. The Brythonic people, they marked it as being Canopus in the heavens, and that's where Canopus is. Now, the reason why I'm going through this in close detail or trying to get it in close detail and showing the various asterisms, is because we're going to look at the Google Earth map, and we're going to look at the Stellarium map, looking at these asterisms so that everyone has a kind of understanding what the boat is, the Carina, what the Bolins is, what Musca is, and Dorado, and so on. And yeah, and the question I began in this was, what shape is the Earth when these things are revealed, which I'm away to show from this book and from my own research. When these things are revealed, the big question on all of our minds should be, what the heck is going on, and what is the Earth, and what are we, and what's this large boat and everything underneath and everything above it all about. So I'm going to take you through the book, because it would be sacrilege, obviously, to look at this and to not read anything from the book. So we'll have a look at the book and read what it says. The above drawing of our decipherment of the Mayburgh Stone of Cumbria shows the stone to be in the shape of a pharaoh's head. It is a geodetic astronomical map of the Far East, Australia, the Americas, and the border of Antarctica, ca. 3117 BC. The Mayburgh Henge is located near the geographic centre of the British Isles, which centre, as we have discovered, is marked by an ancient megalithic site known as King Arthur's Round Table. Obviously, this round table was a round table of the stars of heaven, i.e. a zodiac wheel. The centre of this round table was the southern pole star, for it marked the centre of the astronomical system designed by the ancients. Jason and his Argonauts mapped the Earth, and the Mayburgh Stone is one record of this ancient journey. So I did say that I'll reveal who actually carved these standing stones throughout Ireland and Britain and Europe and Scotland and Wales and so on, and Cumbria here in this case. It was Jason and the Argonauts. So southern constellations are indicated clearly, and the Mayburgh Stone is in part even appropriately coloured, with the watery Amazon represented as hydras as a deep watery blue. Carina marks North America, mostly Canada. Carina is marked at Peterborough, a petroglyphic site also deciphered in this book. The string of Aleutian Islands is the rudder of the boat Carina. Volans means circle. We looked at Volans. Well, we will look at Volans. We'll look at all these asterisms. Volans means circle and marked Florida and what we today call the United States. Now, this is very interesting because Volans sits under the Argus Navi, the ship, as I keep saying on my Facebook posts and other videos here. So this is a large circular geodesic construction recently found in Miami and also deciphered in this book. Musca marked Mexico, and Mexico takes its name from Musca, the Aztec Mexitli, which is war god. Geographic regions took their names from the constellations or vice versa. It's very interesting because the war god, we're in the underworld here, under the Argus Navi, under the ship. So it's the watery deep. It's the underworld. In most cultures, that's how it was seen. So he's saying here that regions take their names from constellations or vice versa, and these still in part apply 5,000 years later. But why should they change once established? This is what the ancients meant when they said, as on earth, so in heaven. This was the Hermetic excuse me, this was the Hermetic principle written about in the ancient sources. El Dorado, the constellation Dorado, of course, for all those seeking these fabled cities, is now clear. It is represented by the islands in the Caribbean Sea, as most vacationers will know, fabulous places. The Argonauts, that is Jason and the Argonauts, even sailed as far enough south to draw penguins and what appears to be markings of the edge of Antarctica. Australia itself was clearly visited. There is a kangaroo drawn on the Mayburgh Stone. Papua New Guinea, of course, was Pupus. Also here the name was retained. Canopus was Nippon, the Japanese name for Japan. Canopus, Canopus, this is underneath the boat, you see. Canis Major, which is above the boat, the dogs, Canis Major in the heavens, was China. The ancient name was China. Of course, no one can prove these ancient names corresponded today, but we think they may be correct, and so do I. So this is back to the image of the Mayburgh Stone, and I apologise for the image of my camera. I don't know what's going on with the brightness or anything else, but we got it back a bit there. But the reading, it was important to read part of the book. This is 17 minutes in and we haven't looked at the Stellarium software yet, but I wanted to give everybody a really good chance. We can all go back and rewind and pause and have a look at what this stone has shown us. And what we'll do now is we'll switch to the Stellarium software, and Stellarium software will allow us to see the heavens and exactly what we find in the heavens. So here we are switched over to the Stellarium software, and what we're looking at here is awesome. It's absolutely beautiful. I just love this software. But what we're looking at here, to the right hand side we can see the Taurus, the Bull, we can see the Aries, we can see Cetus the Beast, the Great Eridanus River, the Fornax, which is the Oven. I'm not going to get into too much here, but I want to point out this area here between the Taurus, the horns, and Betelgeuse of Orion here. This is probably one of the most significant areas in the heavens, all the way through to Libra and Scorpio. In fact it is, because it's the pillars of masonry, Libra, Cancer and Aries. The Cancer being the gate of heaven, as we see here. So these are the three pillars of masonry: Libra, Cancer and Aries. But this area, this portion of the sky which we're away to look at, from which we just looked at a minute ago from Anders Collins' book, we're going to look at some of these areas to familiarise everyone with what some of these terminology and some of these words, astronomical terms, actually are, because for most people it's difficult. They have never looked at these things, and recently, it's only in the last 3 or 4 years I began to look quite deeply into it myself. I was involved with standing stones. I've had an interest in standing stones for years and alignments, but I fell for the old what standing stones are or could be, the great mystery of what they are. But now I do. I know clearly. And the book Anders Collins, Starstones and Scholars, the Decipherment of Megaliths. This book is one awesome book. It allows you to look at the stones. It allows you to look at the heavens. It allows you to look at software like this, Stellarium, and piece it all together. And So this is hopefully what I'm going to do today with this recording. So what we're looking at here is the Argus Navi, the great ship, the Argus Navi in the heavens. Now they've broken this ship up into 3 parts. It's actually 4 parts, but really it's been broken into 3 parts. The Vela, which is the soul, or the sail, and the sun rides on this boat. This is the ark of the sun. The ancient Egyptians and so on believed that this ark was the Ark of Osiris, the Ark of Orion. Orion stood on this boat, and if you look up, Orion is immediately next to the boat, or up above the boat. There's Orion there. So most people believe that Orion is Osiris, and this is Osiris is Orion's boat. But in reality, what I've discovered is this boat itself represents us, the living man and the living woman, the soul of man, the body of man, the vessel, the heartbeat, the spirit, the body, the mind, and the eternal spirit. It represents mind, body and soul, and the purpose is the front of the ship. So in the book, in the Anders Collins book, we've seen that the purpose is in Papua New Guinea. The purpose is over Papua New Guinea, of course, because the name is there, Papa, purpose. And of course the word purpose is where we get the word papal or pope. The purpose is part of a ship. Even today, maritime tradition, the front of the ship is where the records are kept, in a cabin, obviously locked. And this is where the records for where they navigate and where they move, the records of the crew, all documents, all legal documents, all maritime commercial documents go on the purpose deck. And of course that's why the purpose is the papal deck, the papal bull. And as I said, in this area is one of the most important areas in the heavens, because this is the purpose bull, the Taurus field, the law. And yeah, this boat and this purpose deck is where our records are stored. And as most people know, we have 3 sovereign states within Italy, one within England, and one within the United States of America. So, and the Vatican is the purpose, the Carina, or the boat, and the Vela. These are Britain and America, divided into 3, the 3 ruling governments that take our treasures and our cargo, our goods, our soul, the God that we are, the good that we are that travel. And this ship, this ship, the Carina, the Vela and the purpose, they're the 3 important parts, but there is a 4th part, as I said, and it's called the canopus, and that is the underbelly, basically, of the boat. And we'll see there Columba. A lot of my posts on Facebook and a lot of things I speak about, I talk about DC, District of Columbus. DC, we'll get into that in another video, why DC. They're telling us really that, and this is obviously where the DC, Washington DC sits, as I keep saying on a lot of my posts. But what we're going to talk about is this Volans. And here it's seen as a flying fish sort of thing. And what we're going to speak about is Musca, which sits immediately under the Southern Cross, a parasite, a fly, Lord of the Flies. And we mentioned that in the book. Musca represents, of course, Mexico, and so Musca, Mexico, Musca. But this is under the ship. Mexico sits under the ship, and of course under the rudder. And we'll look at Google Earth in a moment, and we'll show you why that's important, and maybe show you where the rudder is, and show you where Mexico sits on Google Earth, and maybe get a vision in your head, as I have, what this Earth actually is. Once you see all these things and you see it's mapped out on standing stones, and people like Anders Collins have thankfully put this into a book, that each one of us can read and decipher for our own areas, really. But this is astounding because the purpose, the vela, the carina and the canopus, as I'll show in a moment, are stretched out over the earth, and it leaves us with the question, of course, is what shape is the earth? So there's Dorado. Spoke about Dorado, and Dorado representing the Gulf of Mexico, El Dorado, of course, the mystical El Dorado, and Cuba, that sort of area that sits over. Dorado is seen as a large fish, and it's funny because you see these fountains everywhere with these very large fish with horrible faces, fish of the underworld, fish that are under the belly of the boat chasing the cargo of man. So that's Dorado, the mystery of Dorado. These are all weird and magnificent beasts or creatures underneath the ship. They're not good. This is the, underneath the boat. Sorry, I'm spinning the boat around here. But let's go back into the boat. Everybody see the Lepus there, down the rabbit hole. I've said this many times in videos, but Lepus down the rabbit hole, and you can see this great Eridanus river and the rabbit hole going down into this underworld realm. Everybody's been talking about going down the rabbit hole. We don't want to go down the rabbit hole. I've said this in other videos. We want to go up through Orion, through the arms, and through the Taurus field into Aries, just as the sun does as it rises from the barge, from the ship. So we're going to flip over now, and we're going to look at Google Earth Pro. Where am I at the moment? I am in the United States of America. So let's have a close look at this rudder. Now, according to Anders Collins' book, and other things that I've also discovered my own time as well, that because of the name Anchorage, or is it Anchorage? Yeah, I used to think that's a strange name. Yeah, Anchorage, and I used to think that was like an anchor or a rudder. Indeed, that's what it is. So this may surprise some people. It shouldn't, because I have made some posts on Facebook. I know not everyone's on Facebook, but I have made plenty of posts on Facebook showing this. So here is the rudder of the ship, and you'll see here on this Mayburgh Stone, you'll see there Alaska is the rudder as shown on the ship, and of course North America, as we move round into the Northwest Territories, into the North American territories, this also is part of the carina, or the part of the boat in the heavens. Remember, the carina is this middle part here, not the back end but the middle part, of course, where all your cargo and everything would be, and where your oars and all that would be as well, and of course your living beings who are the power, the horsepower, who are moving the boat. So all this here, Alberta, the Saskatchewan, I don't even know how you pronounce that, the Manitoba, all this area is the carina, and you can actually see it. I love it. You can see by the shape of the board, and we're going to go and see this even more. So what I'm trying to show here, and show by this book, is that it's mapped out across the world, and the front of this boat actually ends, which is the purpose, the front of the boat. The boat's very large, so the front of the front of the boat, the purpose deck, where all the records are kept, ends in Indonesia, which is a fair distance away, in Papua New Guinea. So Papua New Guinea, which is just this area here somewhere, in it, Papua New Guinea in Indonesia. So this is the very front of the boat. Now I'm glad we went this way. We went from back to front. We went back to front, but it doesn't matter. No, I am glad we went this way, because this is the very front of the boat, the purpose. According to this map here, you can see, and according to the 5,000-year-old stone, not just the map and the book that Anders Collins has put together, thankfully, here, but it's written on stone. And I mean, I am very thankful for this man for putting this together, and other people like him who have taken the real effort and real time to look at this. But you can see here that Papua New Guinea is the Pupus deck. Papa was Pupus. Also here, the name was retained, as it says in his book. Canopus, I just love this one. Canopus. Japan. Where's Japan? Canopus. Canopus is the underneath of the boat. The canopus. What should I show you? See, the canopus is the underneath of the boat. So there's the purpose, which is Indonesia. This is thrown out as a question to everyone. What shape is the earth? What are we actually living on? Because I'm trying to show here the physical boat. How the ancient civilizations, or at least the ancient Brythonic, Celtic, British, Pictish, Celtic people, how the people of Europe, not just all of them, all the people of Europe marked this out in stone. Papua New Guinea, as I said, is the Pupus deck. It's that part on the ship. The canopus, of course, the canopus is Japan, but we're going, we are told, north. There's Australia, down south. That's the purpose, the front of the boat. And then underneath the boat, Japan is the old word for Japan, as it says here, Nippon, the Japanese name for Japan. Nippon, Nippos. Canopus in the heavens. But then here's canopus here, it's underneath. You see, so really what we're looking at is something like that. And as it is, you know, what are we seeing in the heavens? What are we seeing reflected on the earth? It's all very confusing, but this is what is recording on stone. So, but I would beg everyone, not begging anyone, but I would ask people to have a look at this land and the shape of this. What is this? Could this be the bottom of the boat? Could this be the actual physical boat? Knowing that Alaska is the actual rudder, that here is the rudder of the ship. This is the back end of the ship, and the back end of the ship is of course the carina, and the rudder is part of this. You know, it's part of that carina asterism. But this is what we're looking at. We're looking at the physical back end of a boat here with its rudder going round. Forget the globe. This is the deception. You know, they're trying to hide the fact. Is this all the ship round here? And this very interesting ley line, this is my map of ley line, this interesting ley line at Easter time. The royal family gathered at St George's Chapel. I'll just throw this one in. But they gathered at St George's Chapel, which of course is right next to Heathrow Airport. And for those who might be aware or might not be aware, Heathrow Airport is shaped like the Star of David. Although we can't see it much now, but I'll throw a couple of images in. But yeah, these were ancient waterways. The Windsor Castle and the Eton universities sit immediately across these massive, which were once massive waterways. And St George's Chapel here is where the royal families at Windsor Castle, they love to go. And Andrew and the royal family stood a good 45 minutes looking east. Of course it was Easter, but if you follow this line east, you will find that this, in my opinion, is the bottom of the boat that stretches round, and this ley line, as it carries round, it takes us, I believe, all this up here, all this landmass is the broken vessel of the boat, because according to the standing stones as we come round and over St George's, by the way, they gathered in St George's Chapel, George and the Dragon, of course, they were dragon blood lines, the Draco, and the line faces through Ukraine, where we're war, where there is war. It doesn't pass through Moldova, but this whole area is very important, the Black Sea, what is called the Black Sea today, and through, it comes through, you can see the fault line here as well. This, in my opinion, is the bottom of the boat. This is the boat all the way around here. This is the bottom of the boat, and this is why Britain is the centre of the bottom of the boat, or the people of Britain are the people on the wreckage of the boat. And this entire earth is, or the northern hemisphere certainly is, the boat with the rudder, the back end being the careener, Britain being part of the careener, or corona, the crown, and you can see this, what's called as the Indus River. And if you look at this book, Indus Collins, you see here that the Indus River, of course, is called Indus because the Indus asterism sits, it's the Indian, sits immediately under the boat. There he is there, alongside Pavel. And Pakistan, the Indus and Pavel itself represents, or the area that we understand as India and Sri Lanka. They all represent Pavel in the heavens. Of course, Pavel sits, and Indus, immediately underneath the boat. If we turn the boat round, you can see that they're underneath the boat in this area of the heavens that I spoke of here earlier with Taurus, and Indus and Pavel are under this boat, and of course lost at sea, because this is where the term comes from. And what I'm also trying to show here is not only are we geographically in this, the whole northern, what they call the northern hemisphere, we are the physical boat, the northern part of the world. But what I'm also trying to show is everything below the boat is also marked out in the world, and this is the lost at sea, the legal system. And Scorpio is often seen as the tree of life, or access to the tree of life, having the claws to grip up into the upper world to maintain balance on Libra. Or it's also got the sting in its tail, which causes death, and that's why the tail is in the underworld. And it's, you know, the underworld is always everything just under the ecliptic, everything that's just under the Argo Navi ship here, which we're looking at. So yeah, so we're looking at Papua New Guinea, the Pupus part of the boat, and we're looking at Indus, and Indus and Indonesia are Pavel, and Indus, the Indians. It's interesting too because Jamaica and so forth are also Pavel and the Indus, and you can understand why supposedly Christopher Columbus arrived there and they end up with the name the West Indies, and because Indus is obviously significant Indian, it's an asterism in the heavens, and obviously those who navigated the seas used the heavens to navigate the seas. So, you know, when Christopher Columbus, so we're told, thought he arrived in the Americas, he would naturally call it Indus, because that's what was in the heavens, or what was mapped astronomically above. So yeah, I hope this video helps, and I hope it makes a little bit more sense where I'm going with things. But this whole northern, what we call this northern hemisphere, is the physical boat as it is marked on the Mayburgh Stone. And my ley lines show that, you know, this line here, and of course we can never really understand or understand the shape of this earth, because we've been promoted, indoctrinated, and given this idea of a sphere and a globe. But certainly what I'm discovering, and this is what I'm trying to show, that this area and this here is the very bottom of the boat, all the way down to the very front of the boat, and the boat that is the purpose, which has significant spiritual meaning because it is Orion Osiris's boat, the boat which the sun rises upon and rides upon and disappears. As the sun disappears, it disappears as the boat goes down, basically. And we can see that as we move through time. We'll move through here and just finish this off. You can see that the boat moves down, and of course what's above is the ecliptic, and it rises in the opposite direction. So as the ship goes down, and it runs that cycle daily, and this is how we must take up our cross daily, as it says. So I'll leave it there. Mexico, oh, the Gulf of Mexico, but it's not Mexico anymore. It is now the Gulf of America.
Well, we did it. We began this journey and they said we and me, we didn't have a chance, but we knew we were going to win. But I have to say, the crowd was unbelievable today. You know, I looked at the rain, which just never came. You know, we finished the speech, went inside, it poured. Then we came outside. The helicopter scene was an incredible scene. An incredible scene. So beautiful. Like from a movie set. So beautiful. And then, amazingly, it rained. And then we went out. It's like God was looking down on us, I will tell you.